Welcome back, 365 Sports. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke, and Grayson Grundhoefer of Sic'Em365.com. Grayson, we are a week out of the start of the season. What's your temperature right now for Baylor as they start?
I continue to think that this is a team that is still kind of going to be finding itself, I think, early in the season. But overall, I think this is going to be a much improved team, a much more fun team to watch and cover. I think offensively, they're going to be far more creative than they have been in recent years, especially when the offensive line wasn't very good. It made the wide zone really tough to watch at times. So I think this new offense, you'll get to see more shots down the field, more passing, more explosive plays, I think. At least that's the hope. And so very excited about that. And then, of course, excited about the change on the defensive side to see Dave Aranda really lean back into that defensive coordinator role and see what kind of impact that has for this team. And especially, when you look at in-game adjustments and things like that and all the preparation they did in the offseason, I'm very curious if that all comes together, because it should, based on Aranda's track record. So, yeah, I would say, cautiously optimistic, I guess. I'm not talking about this team as being a Big 12 title contender or anything right now, but I think they're going to be competitive and squarely in the mix to make a bowl game.
Grayson, DeQuan Finn officially named the starter after a months-long battle with Sawyer Robertson. We all expected this outcome, although maybe it went a little longer than expected. Just your thoughts on them making it official?
This was the decision that I was hoping they would make and that I thought they would make. Finn has played a lot of football during his time at Toledo. He's won a lot of games at Toledo, has a conference championship, has a 11-win season, has put up all kinds of numbers as a passer and a rusher, over 88 touchdowns in his career. When you look at those kind of numbers, it's very intriguing. And I think the thing with him that gives me a lot of confidence in kind of him running this offense are kind of twofold. I think you know what you're getting from him in the pass game. He's probably going to throw in the 20-something touchdown range. The hope is that he has single-digit interceptions. And then on the rushing side of things, he's basically been a guy that has, 550 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground every year. So it feels like you're getting a very safe floor. But then you also have this ability to say, well, if Baylor's wide receivers make a big jump, maybe those numbers go up even more. Maybe he's able to make more plays down the field due to the weapons that he has. So I think all of that is very intriguing. The fact that he's won in the past, the fact that he's played a lot of football games, gives me a lot of confidence that he's going to be able to run this offense at a pretty good pace.
Grayson, you mentioned the wide receivers. Front line, I feel like they would feel pretty confident with, especially adding Ashton Hawkins with a healthy Hal Presley, Monterey Baldwin. Those things are all good. I think Michael Trigg, given his skill set, might figure more into the passing offense than previous Baylor tight ends in the spread did, especially given the system's a little bit different. But the second wave of wide receivers, are there some nerves about that?
I'm not really nervous about it, because I think when you look at kind of how it's divvied up, you have, Ketron Jackson, Hal Presley, Monterey Baldwin, Ashton Hawkins. So those 4 guys are going to play the most snaps. And I think that they can I think at times you're probably only going to see 3 of them on the field, because then you're also going to have Michael Trigg in the slot and out wide at times. So you're looking at 5 guys there. That's a pretty nice rotation. And then they also brought in Jamal Bell from Nevada, who gives them just a sturdy veteran presence. He'll be pretty good in the screen game and has the ability to take the top off the defense with his 4.49 speed. So then you look at the next wave, and I feel good about Kelsey Johnson and Matthew Klopfenstein as pass catchers. Not as much as Trigg, but I do think they'll be utilized in that way. Then you also can't forget Josh Cameron's played a lot of football, and he's kind of in that second wave as well of guys that you feel really good about on third down. If you're throwing him a pass, that he's going to be able to come down with it. Very sure hands, has always been a very good leader for this football team. So he's going to provide a ton of depth. And then outside of that, it's kind of a little bit of unknowns, like you mentioned. You got Cameron Bonner, who is a deep threat. He's a guy that you bring in and maybe take a shot deep downfield once a game or something along those lines. And then you got Jaden Porter, the true freshman, who I'm actually really excited about. I think there's a chance that he ends up not redshirting this year if things fall right in front of him, because I just think what he brings to this team in the slot is very, very intriguing. So overall, yeah, I feel really good about the depth still, even though I think I can understand why there are questions still about the depth once you get to the end of the second string or that third string role.
We saw them open up the new facility, the new field house, and got to see a little taste of the players getting to walk through there for the very first time, which was very cool, and hopefully we'll see a bit more of that. But any early returns, any thoughts on what you were able to see, or maybe what you've heard on them starting to move into this new facility that's been a long time coming?
It's very similar to what I heard about the new basketball facility once the guys moved in, just how everything was so state of the art, how everything just kind of, I think the main consensus is just what an upgrade it is over what they had before. And that it's just truly amazing kind of what they're going to be able to do in this new facility, how it's going to help the flow of the entire program. I think all of those things are just very important and very underrated. And the fact that everything is kind of housed in one building now, I think is going to add a lot more cohesiveness to kind of their vision and what they're trying to do going forward. Having all the coaches in there, having a brand new meeting room that is awesome, a new weight room that is state of the art, all the stuff for recovery is state of the art as well, which obviously that gives you a little bit of an advantage after games. And then of course the practice facility and fields look great. We've been out there a lot. They look awesome. Everything really came together very nicely. And this is something that does give Baylor a nice edge, whether it's in recruiting or for current players to make decisions on what they want to do. They're going to look around at other facilities across the country, and you're not going to find many better than what Baylor now has.
Grayson, what do you think the running back rotation will be in this new offense, and who and how those touches will be broken up?
I've been thinking about that a lot, and it's kind of one of those positions where you look and you see four guys that are really solid, and I'm not sure that they have one guy in there that you're just sitting there going, wow, this guy is like Jaden Ott at Cal. Like, I don't think they have that guy currently. I think it will be a committee approach. I think you're going to see all four of these guys get carries, and they're going to ride the hot hand. I think the most obvious choice would be Richard Reese. I think he is the guy that he brings nice burst, and that burst is very important in this offense. He can actually hit some home runs, which I think they need. He's a decent pass catcher, and just his athleticism, that speed, like I said, hard to take off the field. But the name I've been kind of just hearing the most, and I was very intrigued about him last year, and I just have this weird hunch and feeling that he's going to play a lot more than people expect, and that's Bryson Washington. He was a true freshman last year, got hurt after having a really good spring, and that really catapulted Dawson Pendergrass into a role, and it allowed Bryson to redshirt last year. But I think coming into this year, Bryson had another really good spring. He put it all together in the fall, and I think he's really working towards a potential role in this offense that could be a lot bigger than some people expect. And so he's kind of the guy that I'm keeping an eye on as they go into this Charleston State game, and then, of course, the Utah game to start seeing how they really want to divvy these carries out. But Bryson has definitely been a riser since the spring and, of course, the fall as well.
Grayson, next week, Tarleton, is that it's fortunate scheduling given the transition in everything they're doing, but they've got to turn right around and go to Utah. But what do you expect to see pace-wise in that game about what they try and accomplish?
I would think that they're going to try to run the ball a lot. I think they're going to try to work with the offensive line and try to see kind of what they have going there, see which guys are performing really well. I have a feeling they're going to try to run the football while also taking some shots down the field. Tarleton wasn't very good last year. They got crushed by Texas Tech. So I'm anticipating that Baylor's going to win that game rather easily, and they should. Probably by I normally kind of err on the side of they should win this game by 4 scores. Whatever that means, that's kind of the minimum that I have, and that's what former good Baylor teams have done in the past in their FCS matchups or in their lower level matchups, FCS. So I think in general, that's kind of what I'm looking for from Baylor. Can this offense move the football really easily, especially since they're going to be a little vanilla because they're going to save some stuff for Utah. Can they still move the ball very effectively, score some points? And defensively, I think a big thing is going to be the defensive line. They should be really dominant in that game. And so if they're not, it gives me real pause about kind of how they're going to do against Utah and whether they're going to take a big step forward like many people expect. So those are some of the main things. The front groups, I think, are probably the most important because talent-wise, size-wise, they should be able to move guys, especially on Charles's team.
Grayson Grundhoefer, Sic'Em365.com. Grayson, when's the podcast?
The podcast is dropping every single weekday, so be on the lookout for that. We just finished position previews, so next week we're going to be talking about the Tarleton State game. We'll have a few guests on as well, so be sure to check that out on Inside Baylor Sports.
Grayson Grundhoefer. Grayson, we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
That is Grayson Grundhoefer.